What is up, heroes? This is Midnight Zero, and welcome to a Team Builder for Week 3 of the NCPL. We are going against Austin, coach of the Virginia Volcaronas. He is a great coach, and I'm actually really looking forward to this match. I'm super nervous, excited at the same time, of course. He's a really good battler. He's been doing pretty well overall. I mean, he hasn't done as well as I'm sure he's wanted to, but he's been looking forward to this match. When we played in the SFL, I felt like it wasn't as great of a battle as it really could have been. It wasn't as representative of our skills. It wasn't as well fought. It wasn't our best efforts and, working in full knowledge and such. That's a different conversation. But regardless, let's look into his team this league. First off, he's got DARKRAI, absolute monster, special attacking powerhouse that gets access to nasty plots. It's hitting a solid speed tier in addition to having decent bulk with base defense and SPDEF of 90 each. And it's resistant to most forms of priority, which is really cool. It also has a decent physical attack and sword stance to run some pretty cool coverage. Speaking of coverage, it gets an incredible amount of coverage moves, hitting just about anything. It's actually a huge threat and something that I'm incredibly worried about. Moving on, we've got Necrozma. This thing is a defensive powerhouse. It's got access to filter, which means super effective attacks are nowhere near as damage. I believe 75% as much damage, and access to really good bulk, reliable recovery, and moonlight, while still hitting decently hard. He gets a lot of different boosting types of moves. Calm Mind, stored power isn't really boosting moves, but an iron defense. It takes hits really well, can boost up instead of rocks, can T-wave. It's a threat. It's a threat. Next up is Mega GARCHOMP. Now, he wasn't too happy with Mega GARCHOMP, but overall Mega GARCHOMP is looked over for. GARCHOMP in its regular form, but this thing hits hard. Base 170 attack. Outrages, Earthquakes are going to hit hard with a base 120 special attack. You can go for stuff like Fire Blast and Empowers for great coverage in the sand. This thing hits even harder, absolutely breaking through teams. It is a powerhouse because of Sand Force. Earthquakes that do 20% extra damage or 30% extra damage is just ridiculous. So definitely a threat to look out for. Its speed tier is a little lackluster, and that's its main flaw in my opinion. Next up is GALVANTULA, bringing the webs. It's always so difficult to prep for GALVANTULA because this thing sets up webs, and then his mediocre speed tier mons like Necrozma and Mega GARCHOMP and others don't have to worry so much about that. It eliminates a lot of those problems. And GALVANTULA in and of itself hits pretty hard with access to Compound Eyes, so it hits Thunder, coming off a so-so base special attack, but this is a Thunder. It hits hard. Next up is EMPOLEON. EMPOLEON is one of the water types I was considering drafting. It's really good. It is great roll compression. It gets access to defog. It can be physically defensive. It can be specially defensive. It can be a physically attacking set. It can be an offensive special attacking set. It's got defog and rocks. Scald for support, roar, which I almost 100% anticipate him bringing for the sake of SUICUNE. Yeah, it's a good Pokemon. Next up is NIDOQUEEN. Now, NIDOQUEEN is another very versatile Pokemon. It can run a very offensive set, running Modest Scarf or Life Orb and Sheer Force, hitting really hard with Sludge Waves and Earth Powers because of Sheer Force. Technically runs Sheer Force Life Orb if going to run offensive, making that, you'd be surprised. Base 75 special attack, but because of the boosts, it hits super hard. It can also run bulkier sets with access to rocks, I believe. I think it gets rocks. It also gets T-Spikes, which is really good to note. Next up is Blaziken. Now, Blaziken was one of the fire types I was looking for in the RU tier. Didn't end up getting it, obviously, but it hits hard on both the physical and special sides, which is its main draw. Great dual fire fighting stab with high jump kick and flare blitz or overheat. It hits hard. It is hard, no matter what, on both physical and special sides, so it's really difficult to prep for, in my opinion. Next up is FROSLASS. FROSLASS is typically a lead Pokemon. It has access to Taunt, Will-O-Wisp, Spikes, Destiny Bond, Icy Wind. It doesn't hit hard, but it's annoying. It also gets its ability is Curse Body, meaning when you hit it with an attack, there is a 30% chance that you'll actually not be able to move that you used to hit it the previous turn, which is problematic for some of my Pokemon, but overall should be okay. That said, if this thing gets up spikes, Taunt is really annoying, so I wouldn't be surprised if he brought it, especially given how weak my team is, generally speaking, to Ice. And yeah, next up is AMBIPOM. I loved using AMBIPOM in the co-op league. It's got great coverage. Fake Out is so good, especially Technician boosted and Stab boosted. You can run a Silk Scarf, you can run Expert Belt because of its coverage with Aerial Ace, Fire Punch, Thunder Punch, Low Kick, a whole bunch of different types of moves, knockoff, U-turn. It's a really pesky mon. It's a really pesky mon is a good way to put it. Next up is Stoutland. Now, Stoutland, it hits hard. It's got a decent attack stat. It hits really hard with Facade, with Return. It gets decent coverage in Fire Fang, which is really notable for SCIZOR. It gets Crunch, I believe, as well. And I think it might even get Wild Charge. I'm not 100% sure, but it's got mediocre speed and decent bulk, but not like exceptional attack by any means either. It does get access to Sand Rush though, which is relevant with the rest of his team, actually the next mon, which is GIGALITH, which is bringing the sand to help support that Mega Garchomp and that Stoutland. It is a really bulky mon. It really appreciates the Spadef boost from the sand. It has great attack, great defense. It's a good rocker. It hits hard with Stone Edge and Earthquake and gets Stealth Rocks up, and that's kind of all it really does. But it offers a lot of support to his team. Next up is Tangela. Now, Tangela might not seem too threatening, but I love Tangela. Tangela is really, really defensively bulky. We slap in a Violite on that with Regenerator and access to Reliable Recovery and Synthesis and Leech Seed, and a decent special attack stat to get Giga Drains off or Hidden Powers off. It is a monster. It's a monster. It's really difficult to take down. So I'm going to have to play well around it if he brings it. Next up is ZWEILOUS. Now, ZWEILOUS isn't, it's not too great in my opinion. It gets access to Hustle, meaning it can actually hit decently hard from that base 85 attack stat. It's also decently bulky with a Violite slapped on it, like most things are. But typically runs Band-Aid or Scarf for Head Smash and Outrage, which can definitely hit hard. Definitely hit hard. Next up is REGIGIGAS. Now, REGIGIGAS, look at those stats. Incredible stats. Crappy ability. Ability slow start means its attack and speed are halved for the beginning of the match, or for the beginning of the match. For the first 5 turns it's in, which means it typically runs Sub, Confuse Ray, Thunder Wave, trying to get all haxy and live off of its bulk until those 5 turns are up, and then it starts plowing through teams with solid speed here and a monstrous base 160 attack with maybe leftovers, maybe Life Orb, Return, stab boosted. So definitely a threat, something to look out for. And now, how did I prep for this team? The first mon I thought to bring was FLORGES, actually. FLORGES is almost exclusively there for DARKRAI. And you're probably saying, but wait, DARKRAI gets access to Sludge Bomb because of its incredible coverage. Well, a modest Life Orb Sludge Bomb from DARKRAI does, I believe, 46 to 51% max to FLORGES, meaning I don't get 2-hit KO'd after Leftovers recovery. And that's why I'm Calm, Max Spadef, Max HP. And I do 88% minimum with a Moon Blast, meaning I KO it after rocks. So that's why FLORGES is here primarily. It is my premier DARKRAI switch-in on Dark Pulses, on Focus Blasts, on Thunderbolts, on Ice Beams, on Incinerates, on Sludge Bombs. It is really there to aid me on the special side. Aromatherapy is there for aiding other members for like potential burns, and Wish is there so that I can pass healing to a lot of my other mons that don't have as reliable recovery. In particular, mons, well, next 2 mons really, which might switch in on some of the mons that would come in to counter FLORGES, so I can potentially take incoming Scalds or something like that. And speaking of that, the next one we got is Mega SCIZOR. Now, Mega SCIZOR, we're running max attack Adamant with enough speed to speed creep a Necrozma that tries to speed creep our speed creeping. So it's kind of an interesting speed spread, I guess. But the rest goes into bulk to potentially take 1 hit. This is a very different SCIZOR than previous weeks. This is a come in once, Swords Dance, and win sort of SCIZOR. It's got Bullet Punch. It does a ton of damage to almost everything on its team with Bullet Punch. And what it doesn't, it typically outspeeds and KOs with Bug Bite. Brick Break is there for Empoleon, strictly for Empoleon. I didn't want to run Superpower because I didn't want that attack or defense decrease because of potential AMBIPOM fakeouts, and because the +2 is actually pretty essential for stuff like Mega Garchomp or DARKRAI to like do decent amounts of damage. So Mega SCIZOR is going to be relying on the opponent to switch around a lot, basically build up chip, and then Mega SCIZOR can come in, take at least 1 hit, whether it's Empoleon Scald or something like that. Maybe even a Dark Pulse from DARKRAI. It's not super defensive, so it's not taking many hits, but it can at least take 1 to set up an SD and then win, hopefully. Next up is GARCHOMP. Now, we're running a Scarf Chomp because Scarf Chomp just plows through his team. GARCHOMP has such a great type advantage and offensive advantage against like almost every one of his Pokemon. we're running an interesting set. We're running Scarf so that we outspeed pretty much everything. And what's important is even if he brings webs, we outspeed everything but AMBIPOM and DARKRAI, so we can still hit things super hard with our Earthquakes, which 2-hit KOs almost everything on his team. What it doesn't, Outrage does a ton of damage to. It might, you know, it even OHKOs, you know, Mega Garchomp. And the one pesky thing in the way is Tangela, which he has to be wary of a Z move. He could see a Z Inferno Drive, or Inferno Overdrive. He could see a Z Acid Downpour coming in on that Tangela, so he really needs to watch out for that. That said, I'm obviously not bringing it. I am bringing Flamethrower though, because that does 45 to 50% to a physically defensive Tangela, which means after rocks it'll 2-hit KO, which is ideal. Sleep Talk is there in case he wants to bring Dark Void or Hypnosis on DARKRAI, or if he wants to go for Sleep Powder on Tangela. And I know if I'm not going to be like, you know, Garchomp is not my premier switch into Tangela, but if I know he has Sleep Powder and I anticipate a potential Sleep Powder, I could go into this so that I have something with Sleep Talk is asleep, you know. Lonely is there to boost attack and decrease my defense because I didn't want my special attack lowered for that Flamethrower calc, and I anticipate taking the least amount of defensive attacks. I anticipate more so taking Scalds and such, and if I do take physical attacks like AMBIPOM's Fake Out, which is really the only physical attack I do anticipate, it'll be taking Rough Skin damage. Next up is SUICUNE. SUICUNE, it's Crocoon. That's pretty much all there is to say about it. Max defense, Scald, Calm Mind, Sleep Talk, and Rest. It, after Calm Minds, takes on his special attackers. It takes on his physical attackers decently well, except for Blaziken if it's max attack with attack boosting nature, Life Orb, high jump kicks, which has a chance to 2-hit KO. But yeah, Scald is there for picking up chip, getting burns. Calm Mind is there to potentially set up on some of his mons. We set up on a decent number of them too, so yeah. We do need to worry though about Tangela potentially and Empoleon. Empoleon completely walls this SUICUNE. I mean, I guess we could eventually beat it, but he's probably bringing Roar and such. So the rest of my team needs to weaken at the very least Empoleon before we try and set up with SUICUNE at all. Next up is Bronzong. Bronzong, sassy, max specially defensive. It is there to take on a lot of his mons. He's got he's got quite a few special attackers, and I mean, outside of Darkrai, Bronzong takes them on decently well. Earthquake is there to hit Empoleon. Gyro Ball is there to hit faster mons that aren't weak to Earthquake, and FROSLASS. Toxic is there to toxic just like everything. Toxic everything, and Rocks is there so that I get a lot of passive damage. Like I said, building up passive damage for a SCIZOR or GARCHOMP sweep late game is my top priority. This is a switch into Tangela, this is a switch into Empoleon, and those are things that I was struggling with a little bit. This can Toxic one of them, Earthquake in 4-hit KO, Empoleon while not taking too much damage back, and I can get up Rocks and he can defog, I can Earthquake on the defog, set up Rocks as he scalds again, and so forth. So Bronzong is going to be pretty helpful in getting up those hazards. Next up, and lastly, is GLIGAR. Now, GLIGAR is a max physically defensive set. This is built almost solely with the intention of countering Blaziken. Blaziken, which is an absolute monster for my team to deal with. I mean, this thing takes on all of his physical attackers, really, whether it's Mega Garchomp, whether it is, I don't know, GIGALITH even, STOUTLAND, AMBIPOM, unless it's running Ice Punch, REGIGIGAS, ZWEILOUS. It even takes on Tangela decently well and can Toxic it, which is also really important. I can defog away webs, and this is my only way of defogging webs away. I can Toxic almost everything. I even take some decent number of special attacks from Galvantula. Even Empoleon can weaken that if I need to. And of course Blaziken, because I didn't really have a lot for it. I can't run Defog and Immunity, which is my favorite combo, so I'm running Sandbell because he might run Sand, and that means I have a better chance at not getting hit by Gigalith Toxics or Stone Edges or other Toxics or Hydro Pumps potentially, all that sort of thing. So yeah, that's why Gligar's coming along. And overall, how do I feel about this match? Overall, this match is going to be really tough. I do feel like his offense is particularly really good against my team. NIDOQUEEN is really, really scary for my team to deal with, and I feel like if played really well, he could outpower me. So I might have to play a little bit aggressively with my offensive mons. That said, I am going to, analyze based on what he brings and everything and see how risky I actually need to play, because obviously I don't want SCIZOR taking so much damage to the point where it can't set up an SD, or, I don't want to get a surprise Ice Beam from, NIDOQUEEN or Empoleon, or an HP Ice from Galvantula or Blaziken, or, FROSLASS, like a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, overall, I'm really nervous. I'm looking forward to it. It's scary. I don't know. This team building was really hard. I had a really difficult time going through this team and coming up with this team. I think I am going to have to play really on point if I want to win this, knowing that Austin is a really good battler and he's also got a solid team. So I hope you guys are excited for that battle. I will see you then. I'm excited, I'm nervous, and hopefully we get a W. Hopefully we can keep the win streak going, the 1-game win streak, and keep on improving. But until that match, this has been Midnight Zero, and this mission is complete.